ministerial declaration, as well as a first draft of a resolution of Peru and Rwanda, who are suggesting, proposing a new agreement against plastic pollution on the UN level. Let me welcome here at this room the Ecuadorian Minister for Environment, Water and Ecologic Transition. It's Gustavo Manrique. Hello, welcome. From Germany, it's the State Secretary Johann Flassbart from the Ministry for the Environment. And from Ghana, it's the Special Advisor for the Ghanaian Minister for Environment, Oliver Borchi. And for Vietnam, here I can welcome the ambassador in Geneva at the UN from Vietnam, Mrs. Thuy Mai. Now we start with the first statement, and I hand over to Gustavo Manrique. But please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank our co-organizers, or co-conveners from Ghana, Vietnam, and Germany. It has been a pleasure to lead shoulder to shoulder with you during this month to accomplish what we just finished a few minutes ago. It's evident that we are facing local problems that need a global solution. Today, we heard from all countries their local problems and their big efforts they are doing from coast to coast, and they share with us that they can't fight alone. We need to be all together. Ecuador, in that matter, start an ecological transitions, and regarding maritime litter and plastic pollution, I want to share some specific things that the national government and local governments have been leading the last days and months. We just approved a circular economy law with absolutely majority in the Congress. We just approved the single-use plastic law, national law in Ecuador. Many important cities of Ecuador approved municipality acts or ordinance about single-use plastics. As a matter of fact, Galapagos just approved single ordinance use plastic. Besides that, even though those efforts, we collect thousands of kilograms from Galapagos of plastic yearly, from volunteers, NGOs, and it doesn't matter how many laws we can put together. The problem is globally. We are facing local problems with global solutions. So we're very happy that this momentum has come to this point where we're going to start global negotiations to get to a point where we can solve this problem. So thanks again to our Ghana, Vietnam, and Germany partners that have been involved on this.
Thank you very much. Just a short note to the situation with the video, with the camera here inside. I have to say that the camera is not really working well, so we cannot focus the person who is speaking. I have to apologize for this. It has worked yesterday, but now it doesn't. So it's more audio press conference. I apologize for that. Now the next one is Mr. Flassbart, please.
Thanks a lot. I'm the one on the right in the screen. Thanks to my colleagues, Oliver Boucher, Thuy Mai, and Gustavo Manrique. We are here to announce a successful conference outcome. We invited, as our 4 countries, for the first ministerial conference on marine litter and plastic pollution. We had a couple of months to prepare this conference with many meetings on the negotiators level. We had the last days to finalize a ministerial statement here at this conference. And during this afternoon, we had a ministerial high-level conference with many participants here present at the WTO building in Geneva, but also many linked virtually. This is what we learned during the last 16, 18 months. So it was a full coverage from countries around the globe, 1,100 participants from around 130 countries. This is indicating how relevant the topic is that we are discussing here. This conference in a way goes back to the last United Nations Environment Assembly in Nairobi in 2019. A number of decisions on the issue of marine litter were taken, but there were some countries who were of the view already at that time that we need to speed up to find the appropriate answers to fight against marine litter and plastic pollution. It was my country, Germany, the Ministry of Environment. We invited together with Norway for a first meeting of like-minded countries. And I'm very happy to see that this group of countries that shares the view that we need to do more and that we have to be faster to find marine litter and plastic pollution. So we saw a lot of positive reflections during the day. You heard already such an example like Galapagos. And you will find a huge number of similar situations. When Germany was in cooperation with Fiji on the climate COP in 2017, I had the privilege to visit their region, their home region, and there you have the close to the Pacific Islands this huge garbage, plastic garbage patches that you can already see from satellites from the galaxy. So if you need an indication how unsustainable our consumption and production patterns are, you find them with these pictures. This environmental problem, as has been outlined by my colleague Gustavo, is of global nature. Of course, each and every country has to act, but as has been said, if we take national action that is not echoed by the world community, you are lost. You cannot fight the problem. And that is a reason why we here, as a group of 4 conveners with many countries supporting us, put this issue on the international agenda. Germany did so, for example, when we were holding the G7 presidency, later on the G20 presidency, to make world leaders aware that this is a political issue, that it has to have political attention, otherwise it will not be solvable. There are various areas where action is needed. I think many countries, many representatives here I heard today share the view that we have to look at the whole life cycle of products from the product design. We have to look at single-use plastic. Many countries have started to ban single-use plastic or short-lived plastic as well. We of course, also need in countries a robust waste management. The waste you cannot avoid, or where countries are not in a position to avoid it yet, need waste management systems. They need recycling facilities, and they have to provide also the opportunity to repair and to reuse products. I'm happy that we came to a conclusion here today. We agreed on a ministerial statement that calls for a global agreement against marine litter and plastic pollution. Many countries, many representatives already here in Geneva expressed their support for this ministerial statement. It is open for signature now during the rest of the day here in Geneva, and then there will be a deadline mid-October to invite other countries who still need national consultations for the signature. But I got a very, very strong feeling that this approach has a lot of support around the world, and the four of our countries are representing different continents, which again indicates that we are talking about a global problem. And so I'm very sure that the next formal step, which is the adoption of a resolution that starts, that sets a starting point for a global negotiation process on, if we are talking about an agreement, it has to be negotiated. And Peru, together with Rwanda, today published a draft for such a resolution. So we have the formal document on the table now to start this process, and I'm absolutely convinced that this will be successful at next UNEA 5.2 end February, beginning of March next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, State Secretary Flaspart. I hand over now to Oliver Bochi, the Special Advisor to the Ghanaian Minister for Environment. Please, your floor is open.
Thank you so much. I think that all of us will bear testimony that we've just ended a very, very successful ministerial conference. And when I think about it and recall where we started from, I'm really, really amazed how within the past 7 months, I believe, we've managed to start from virtually nowhere to such tremendous gathering, deliberations, and outcomes. It boils down to the kind of teamwork, the cooperation, and the spirit that is brought together by the four countries that have joined to lead this effort to bring the whole world towards addressing a challenge that needs to be addressed if the world that we know today is going to survive. And that really reinforces something that I have learned over the past 3 years when Ghana released its national plastics management policy. Now, because of the bold initiatives that our policy enunciated, it really attracted a great deal of international attention. And so, as a result of that, the World Economic Forum really approached Ghana and said, look, in the region of Africa, we are looking for a model country to partner with under an initiative known as the Global Plastics Action Partnership. And so Ghana in 2019 became the second country in the world after Indonesia to become part of the Global Plastics Action Partnership. Now, what that has done is to create a platform on which many stakeholders, including countries, the UK, Canada, multinational corporations, Coca-Cola, Nestle, Unilever, and Dow, and others. And then at the national level, we have government, ministries, and agencies. In all, there are about 21 such institutions that have come together and are working together to address problems at the national level. And it is through that the recognition that Ghana has achieved has eventually brought us to partner with these great countries that we are working with. And so with what we have achieved over these 6 months, the idea of countries coming together and looking at ways of setting common objectives and then cooperating and collaborating to achieve those objectives are the things that yield results. And that is why I am so confident that the journey that we have started, uh, mountain as it is going to come to a very, very successful end at the end of the day. And so I'm very, very pleased to be part of this team. And we are really looking forward to working with all of you to achieve the results that we desire in the years ahead.
Thank you very much, Oliver Bochi from the Ghanaian government. And now the fourth and last statement from the Vietnamese ambassador here in Geneva at the United Nations. It's Thuy Mai. And just for preparing the journalists to have their questions right, after that we're starting the Q&A, and you can just raise your hands, and then we're starting with your questions, and I will call you in that virtual room. And now, Thuy Mai, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And I have the honor to represent the government of Vietnam. So Vietnam is honored to co-convene this ministerial conference on marine litter together with Ecuador, Germany, and Ghana. And during the yesterday and today, I had the honor to work together with our co-conveners and the secretariat from the UNEP. And I'm so happy with the outcomes of this ministerial conference. And as you know, Vietnam has been promoting national actions and actively participating in regional and international cooperation in addressing plastic pollution. Our now state president, His Excellency Nguyen Xuân Phúc, early as in 2017, in his capacity as Prime Minister of Vietnam, made the call at the G7 summit in Canada and calling for international cooperation for combating marine litter. And Vietnam, as a coastal country in Southeast Asia, we have working together with ASEAN fellow member states and the international community in addressing plastic pollution. And we share the views that thoroughly tackling plastic pollution requires a systematic and global approach along the plastic value chains, and particularly the comprehensive approach to address the life cycle of the products, and working in Geneva, in international Geneva, where we had the headquarters of more than 40 intergovernmental organizations here. We feel the spirit and the urgency, the needs to address this issue, and need the coordination between various international organizations, also the private sector and the community. So I'm happy to attending this ministerial conference and to witness the outcomes of the conference with a ministerial statement. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm glad to join with our co-conveners, and we'll happy to answer any questions relating to Vietnam. So thank you so much.
Thank you to Mrs. Thuy Mai. And now we are starting with the questions from the side of the journalists. I have seen Christiane Oehlrich from the German press agency DPA. Mrs. Oehlrich, please, you can open your microphone and we will listen to your question.
Dankeschön. Guten Tag. I have some fact questions. I'm afraid it's 4 parts, but the answers should be very short because it's just clarifications. Could you tell us how many countries are behind the idea of negotiating such an agreement? When, in the best set of circumstances, when could such an agreement enter into force? How much money is needed so that all the member states will be up to speed on reducing plastic waste? And is the aim to reduce plastic waste being discarded in nature? Is the aim to reduce that to zero? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your questions. 4 questions. Who would like to start with the answer regarding the number? And Mr. Flassbart is starting.
Okay. Hello, Mrs. Ulrich. With regard to the number, we got for the ministerial statement, which also addresses the need for a global agreement, already here at that time, 25 supporters. We have 50 countries that indicated in their statements that they are going to support the agreement, but they need formal decisions to send their support in writing. And there are others who I think need some more national discussions inside their governments. But we got more than this, what I said, 25 plus 50 indications for support, which is, before we start, quite a number. We have seen processes on the Minamata Convention, which addresses mercury, and also when we discussed about the International Platform for Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, IPBES, we had at that stage where we are now, less support, and these were successful negotiations. So we, the 4 countries, are very confident that we will be able, because we still have the time until end of February when UNEA 5.2 will discuss on these issues, together more support. It's very difficult to predict how long negotiations will take. We have seen some negotiation processes on convention that could really drive you mad as long as they took. We have been faster on others, so I think it's not in between months, but hopefully in a very few numbers of years that we can have a convention that can enter into force. What is the target? I mean, it's an interesting question, and all this, to be very clear, has not been decided here. If you start a negotiation process, you decide on the mandate, what should be reflected, and it would be in the view of us as a 4 co-conveners, a mistake to exclude subjects to discuss, because then you would exclude partners to participate and vote in favor of such a process. And what I saw now during the last 2 years, that there is an enormous convergence of views. And it would be a mistake to exclude this possibility that our views continue to converge. And the question whether the target is zero plastic pollution, I personally would say yes, that would be an optimum world. If we manage to reduce single-use materials, single-use products, and if we start to reuse by multi-use schemes and recycle the materials, then we are in an optimum world. So I wouldn't exclude that this would be something like the 1.5 degrees target for the Paris Agreement, also to end up in a zero plastic waste world. Yeah.
Anybody wants to contribute?
Yeah, just to add to what Mr. Flassbart just said in answer to the questions. I'd like to just add something to the last question which is if the aim is to reduce to zero. Um, Frankly, plastics have become an essential part of human life. There is no way we can anticipate ever not using plastics. And so if the question was, are we going to ban the use of plastics at any time in our lives? The answer is definitely no. But we are looking at ways of creating zero waste. And that is the foundation of the concept of secular or secularity. Basically, um, the world's resources are finite. And so the way we are consuming our resources and then creating waste that contains value, and then we have to find resources to manage the waste, is never the way to go. And so uh, the goal is to ensure that when we produce, and we produce responsibly, then we are able to reuse what we have produced over a very long period of time, thereby making sure that no waste is created. And so if the question is, are we looking at never having waste at some point? The answer is definitely yes, because that is the essence of circularity. And if we bind together the way we have anticipated within the concept of this global agreement to base it primarily on circularity, then of course the end goal or the target is to have zero waste. So that would be just an addition to what Mr. Flashback just said.
Thank you. This was Oliver Bochi from the Ghanaian government, just for our followers on Twitter and LinkedIn, because you can't really see us in a good way. The camera is not working like we have wished it. It's not focusing the person who's speaking. I have to apologize this for everybody who's starting this, looking at the stream later. We come to the next question. It's Michel Langrat from the Geneva Solution. Please, you can just open your microphone and we listen to your question carefully.
Yes, hi, thanks for this conference. I was wondering, so the statement calls for a global agreement, but the draft resolution calls for a legally binding agreement. And so I'm wondering, how much backing does this, the fact that it's a legal, that it should be a legal instrument has, and how hard will it be to kind of get all countries to accept this as an end result? Thank you.
Who wants to take over the question?
Yes, let me try to address this. There were two processes that were running parallel to each other, and those two processes have different objectives, but at the end of the day, they converge because the two must be together to enable us to achieve the objective. The ministerial statement, which was the outcome of this conference, is meant to demonstrate the commitment of countries of the world to look at working together under an instrument that binds us and enables us to have the resources and the framework to work together to address the menace of plastic pollution and marine litter. Now, in order to get the opportunity to sit down and start talking, you need to go to UNEA. You need to go to the United Nations Environment Assembly and ask for the mandate to do so. The instrument that you use to seek for that mandate is the resolution. Okay, so the two are working parallel at this stage, but at some point they are going to merge at UNEA 5. Now, the question that was asked was in the resolution, it is calling for a legally binding agreement. In the ministerial statement, it is a little silent on that. And the reason why it is silent on the statement is that at this stage, where you are looking to get as many countries as possible to support so that you are able to go over the hump at UNIA 5, you need to soften your language. You need to make it attractive enough for countries to join so that at some point it will be all of them sitting at the table to negotiate and come to an agreement. And so it was a purpose of making sure that we leave room for negotiations. And that is why it was silent in the ministerial statement. But the two have one common objective. One, to give us the opportunity to bring people, our countries together. The other, to get the UNIA Assembly to say, yes, please go ahead, set up the intergovernmental negotiation team, and then work together to come up with something that is attractive to all the member states. And so I hope that answers your question.
If I may add just one observation. I heard countries, without naming them today, who spoke during last meetings that a legally binding instrument is not imaginable for them. And today I heard them saying they are ready also to consider a legally binding nature, which exactly reflects what Oliver was saying, that we are in a process and we want to bring people on board. And we hope that arguments will convince them in the one or the other way.
Thank you very much for these answers. Are there any other questions? In the meanwhile, I have put all the right names and positions in the chat so that everybody can see it, who is really in that room. It's Jamie Keaton from Associated Press. Please, Jamie Keaton.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you very well.
Thank you very much. My question is really if you could just kind of give us a glimpse as to who the holdouts are, about which countries are the most resident. I know that that's always an unpleasant question to ask or to answer, but can you give us a flavor as to which countries, or maybe even regions, or, I mean, is it developing countries? Is it developed countries? Is it a mix? I mean, could you just give us a flavor as to who is the most reticent about this project? Thank you. Even though you sound very optimistic that countries may come around at some point.
To be honest, at this stage, I would not call anybody a holdout. And the reason is very simple. There are some countries in the world today who, by necessity, have to be part of what you are doing. Okay. And for that reason, if those countries have not embraced what you are doing wholeheartedly at this stage, it doesn't mean that at some point they are not going to come around. And so for us, nobody or no country has said explicitly that they are not going to endorse. What we have heard is that they are still looking at their policies. Some of them want to study the document a little bit further. And some of them have questions that need to be answered. And for us, there was no illusion at the beginning that it was going to be a piece of cake, that everything will go hunky-dory. No, we knew that a venture of this nature, where countries are coming together with different interests, different political systems and so on. It's not going to be a one-day affair. And so, no, we don't believe that there are any holdouts now, because some of them are silent. Somebody might interpret that to mean that they are holding out, but we are not looking at it that way. And so at this stage, we will not be able to name anyone who is a holdout because we don't know them. We know one or two who have not spoken loudly enough, and we wish that wasn't the case. But we are very, very hopeful that as we open our arms and then invite and then let them know that there are no fixed positions in what we are doing, we believe that eventually they will come around and we will be one team working towards getting something that will serve the interest of the whole world.
And if I may add, I mean, we are having here, we are dealing with high professional diplomats here. And if a country wants to destroy and kill the process, it would have been high time today to be destructive, but they weren't. So that's, for me, again, a positive indication, not to say that the deal is done. We have to work on it. We have to convince partners. But there is, as has been said, nobody that whom we could identify to be in principle in a position to work against it and to try to destruct the process.
We can still have one question, a final question. Is there any question that should be answered here in the room? Then please raise your hand, open your microphone. So far, I can't see anybody. Yeah, I think we are done on this way. Then I say thank you and for everybody who has followed us here on this press conference. We're finishing now the live stream on Twitter and LinkedIn. And as I said, we come up now with a press release and the ministerial declaration of this conference here in Geneva on marine litter and plastic pollution. Thank you very much and goodbye.